Okay, we want to talk about the genocide that's going on in Cameroon right now in Africa that ain't nobody telling us about, but over a lot of people have died within the last few weeks. So let's watch this clip and then.
Sadly, what has been going on in southern Cameroons for years has not gotten the international attention it should have. Even if the Western world seems worried about the war in Ukraine and has provided every support, it does not care about the war crimes, worse human rights violations, and heinous things happening in southern Cameroon. The heartbreaking truth is that the Western world is actually behind the genocide and killings. Backed by France's Macron and the US Biden, the French Cameroon soldiers are wreaking havoc in southern Cameroon. By now, over 50,000 people have been killed in an act of ethnic cleansing, and over 600 villages have been burnt. Over 1.5 million people have been displaced, while the genocide continues and the world stands in deafening silence. But why is there a conflict in Cameroon, which is costing thousands of lives, presenting a picture of the worst forms of war crimes, where dead bodies are peeled and thrown to make room for others coming? Watch this video to know the dark chapter of what's going on in the southern Cameroons. Let's get started. Cameroon is situated in Central Africa and was historically split into two colonial territories, with the eastern part being administered by the French and the western part by the British. Following their independence from colonial rule, these two regions came together in 1961 to establish the Federal Republic of Cameroon. Later, in 1972, the country adopted a unitary system and became known as the Republic of Cameroon. However, even if these two regions were united, tensions existed. Southern Cameroon wanted independence from the French-speaking Cameroon, the same way as it was before 1961. As they want independence but cannot get it because France does not want it, there is a conflict going on. The French Cameroonian military operates under the authority of the central government in Yaoundé, which is French influenced and carries out killings and mass genocides in southern Cameroons.
Now, you listen to some of this stuff that this man is telling you about how they control the resources and make them sign debts for life.
This crisis predominantly revolves around separatist aspirations, with certain groups in the English speaking areas of southern Cameroon advocating for either independence or greater autonomy from the predominantly francophone government based in Yaoundé. The Cameroonian soldiers stationed in southern Cameroons generally adhere to the policies and directives established by the central government. This central government largely does what France orders, as it's a francophone African country. Now, you need to understand the different fractions to understand what's going on. There are separatist armed factions in southern Cameroons who want independence, and it's their right. However, to suppress them, there are French Cameroonian security forces who enter southern Cameroons and carry out genocide.
Grass-fed butter. This is why you feel weird after eating butter.
Grass-fed butter. You go, whoa, grass-fed butter. Dr. Gundry likes grass-fed.
Genocides, so the population can be prevented from fighting for independence. Security forces responded to separatist attacks with a heavy-handed approach, often targeting civilians in the Anglophone regions, the English-speaking southern Cameroons. In 2021, military personnel killed at least 9 civilians in Mautu village, southwest region, including a woman and a child. The soldiers also engaged in looting numerous homes and issued threats to residents. In Gom village, northwest region, 2 soldiers forcibly entered the home of the local traditional authority, the Fan, and subjected 8 individuals to harassment, including a 72-year-old man whom they physically assaulted. Additionally, they shot Nwang Lydia, a 60-year-old woman, when she failed to provide information about a separatist fighter. You see, these French Cameroonian forces enter villages and homes without any regret and kill whoever they want. On June 9, 2021, both regular army troops and the elite Rapid Intervention Battalion, Bataillon d'Intervention Rapide, were responsible for the death of a 58-year-old man and the sexual assault of a 53-year-old woman during a security operation in and around Mbuluk village, northwest region. They also engaged in break-ins, property damage, and looting, affecting at least 33 shops and homes, including the residents of the Fawn in Zine village. On October 14, 2021, a French Cameroonian soldier fatally shot Cara Louise Enondial, a 4-year-old girl, on her way to school in Bua, southwest region. On November 10th, an improvised explosive device was thrown onto the roof of a lecture hall at the University of Buea, Southwest region, injuring a minimum of 11 students. What task the French Cameroonian soldiers were given seems obvious. They had to wipe out all villages, towns, and cities in the southern Cameroons until no one was left to demand independence. That's genocide and ethnic cleansing no one in the Western world wants to talk about. But the bitter reality is that this is going on due to France's intervention. Even after ending its colonial era, it is controlling Francophone African countries and using its military to carry out genocides for its national interests. France wants southern Cameroons to be under the rule of the central government, which is its puppet. For that, it has given a free hand to the forces who are carrying out killings in hundreds every day. The excuse presented to justify this barbaric act is that the people in southern Cameroons are rebel groups, hence they have to be wiped. However, that's a wild generalization as millions of people live in southern Cameroons. Under the cover of killing rebel groups, French Cameroonian soldiers are actually killing thousands of civilians. Even one can argue about killing what they are calling rebel groups. In reality, they are freedom fighters who want independence, challenging France's authority. They don't want France to rule Cameroon and kill the native people. Situated about an hour and a half's drive from Bamenda in Cameroon's northwest, Belo is a village that appears largely deserted, except for a military checkpoint, where drunk soldiers are stationed. In the middle of the road lies a charred motorcycle, and further ahead, a lifeless body is sprawled on the ground, partially concealed by a few handfuls of grass. Two girls carrying bags laden with dried fish on their heads explain their presence. We barely have any food, that's why we came back to collect the fish, they say. They point to the corpse, identifying it as that of a villager, and add, there are many more bodies. The soldiers burned part of the village. Bello is at the forefront of Cameroon's ongoing conflict between Anglophone and Francophone communities, an increasingly secessionist struggle that has pitted the French-speaking government in Yaoundé against the Anglophone Ambazonia Defense Forces. We are on our way to Bamenda, says a woman, echoing the concerns of many who requested anonymity due to fear of retaliation. She describes a recent confrontation between the ADF and the army. The army sent reinforcements later in the day, and then they started taking their revenge on the villagers. They burned the houses, raped women, and executed people at random. Those who had the chance to flee are hiding in the jungle. When asked about the number of casualties, she responds, many. This is a genocide. The scene in the village of Ambo resembles that of Bello. Small groups of soldiers occupy the village center, while the walls of several houses bear the scars of bullet holes and arson attacks. An elderly man, unable to flee due to a crippled leg, remains with his grandchild. He tells of surviving on bananas for weeks. Another man, displaying a suppurating knee injury from a beating, shares his experience of narrowly escaping the soldiers. He points to a nearby house, explaining that an elderly woman was shot and killed there in her own home. He also witnessed two girls being wounded by bullets in their shoulders. Lucas Cho Ayaba, commander in exile of the Ambazonia Governing Council, views the Yaoundé government as an occupying force. 60% of the GDP of Cameroon is earned in Ambazonia, he claims. Oil and wood are exploited by foreign companies, but the profits go to Yaoundé. On the other hand, there is allegedly no money to provide for English-speaking teachers. Ayaba's remarks shed light on the actions of the ADF. Rebels torch trucks transporting large logs, destroy a local government building in Batibo, and abduct civil servants. Ayaba emphasizes, we cannot stand idly by. Peaceful protests and civil disobedience in the ghost towns simply do not have any effect against the repression of Yaoundé. The statistics alone are deeply distressing. Since the outbreak of violence in 2017, 50,000 lives have been lost. 600 villages lie in ruins.
Since 2017, 50,000 people have been lives have been lost because France wants to control everything. They don't want to. They ain't never left. We talking modern day slavery. You getting a 360 degrees view of it, and we all running around here ain't trying to do nothing and don't care about one another, man. What's wrong with us? We've been had a disservice done to us for years, and it keep going on. Enough is enough, man. We need to get up off of our tails and do something. You know, America America got part in this too. Don't get me wrong. They in it too. They bleed Africa dry. They don't never want that continent to be free. Too many black people. Y'all did to us, we gonna do to y'all what y'all did to us. And we ain't gonna never forget it.